Welcome to One Girl in All the World, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer rewatch podcast where we recap each episode in order and discuss. I'm Ashley, Buffy superfan.
Kimmy, Buffy newbie.
You can find us on all major podcast apps, YouTube and Instagram, with new episodes on Tuesdays. All right, so today we are talking about Earshot, which is kind of it has a lot of funny stuff in it, but it is a pretty heavy episode.
It is a heavy episode, but also a bit of a palate cleanser again, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, this is the last one.
Okay, because I'm like, no updates really on the mayor or Faith. I was like, I was waiting for that stuff.
Yeah, we have 4 episodes left after this, and yeah, this is the last.
Okay, like it wasn't a bad episode or anything, but I just thought I was going to get, I know what you're saying about the heaviness, but also I just thought I was going to get a little
It doesn't
more.
move the plot forward.
Yes, exactly. That's what I want to say.
And there will be nothing but plot coming, like, because you have so much going on, even without, like, all the mayor stuff and the Faith stuff. They're graduating from high school. There's graduation, there's prom, there's like all this stuff, you know what I mean, that happens at the end of high school.
Right.
College acceptances, deciding where you're going to go to college. So there is a lot to pack into these last 4 episodes.
Okay.
And obviously, you know, everything that's happening with the mayor and Faith.
Yeah.
So yeah, we won't be moving back against anything again. We won't have any more. It's all plot from here on out. So
let's do it.
So Earshot originally aired September 21st, 1999. Does that sound weird to you? Since the last episode before that aired on March 16th.
Wait, when was it? March 16th?
March 16th to September.
Oh, did they took a spring and summer break?
So what happened was that this episode was supposed to air a week after Columbine happened.
Oh.
So talk about really bad timing. So the Columbine high school shooting happened, and like that next week it was like scheduled to air it. So they did not air it on the original day. It wasn't until after the season finale, like into the summer, when they aired it. So this was like picked up later. They just didn't air it because it wasn't appropriate. So this was actually aired in September. So after the season's done, this gets aired.
So did the other episodes air then?
Yeah. They just skipped a week. They just skipped a week.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because they just didn't think it was appropriate to
It's
air
fair.
it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, so this just kind of got like, you know, put to the end, at the end of the season. So that's why the dates are so weird. And the synopsis is, a near-fatal run-in with a pair of oozy, mouthless demons unexpectedly leaves Buffy with the awesome ability to hear other people's thoughts. When this newfound power ultimately threatens to overwhelm and destroy her as the cacophony of thoughts isolates her from the rest of the world and drives her to the brink of insanity. When Buffy's clairvoyance unearths a potential mass murder plan at the school, Giles, Willow, and the rest of the gang spring into action to locate the would-be killer and thwart the schoolyard massacre, while Angel endeavors to keep Buffy from spiraling into telepathy-induced madness. Wow. That was word soup there.
Very wordy.
Yeah.
So I would just like to point out that I was correct.
Yes.
Telepathy.
Yes.
Well, mind reading, whatever, yep.
Mind reading, yeah. So it's a pretty cool power for Buffy to get, I think.
Yeah, actually, I mean, until it made her almost go crazy.
Right. In moderation. If you have control over it.
Not overwhelmingly, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right. So, wait, I didn't say who wrote it and directed it. So this was written by Jane Epstein and directed by Gregis Kimball, but there is 2 scenes that Josh wrote. Did I say Josh or Joss? Because it's Josh. That Joss wrote. He wrote the classroom scene where Buffy's talking about Shakespeare. Because he's a huge Shakespeare fan. And so, like, there's a lot of Shakespeare in Buffy. They talk about it all the time. And then the confrontation scene between Buffy and Jonathan. That was not written by Jane. So those 2 scenes were not written by Jane. So, it's FYI. So we get it previously on, and we just get basically everything that's leading us up to this point with Faith, the mayor, Angel, all that stuff that we already know.
Yep.
We don't, and we dip into that situation because of Angel, but again, like you said, we don't get any movement forward with the mayor or Faith in this episode. We go to the playground of death, which, you know, only bad things happened here. This is where the kids got killed in, or air
the
quotes,
creepy
killed.
playground. Yes.
In the playground. So we're there again. This is like the number. I feel like they're more in this playground than they are in cemeteries in this season. What happened about that?
Playgrounds, the stuff that nightmares are made of.
Yeah. And it actually reminds me of like the opening of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like with like the park with the swing and everything.
Yeah, the creepy. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. So Buffy is fighting two like pretty gnarly looking mouthless demons. Yeah, they're pretty big.
Creepy. They're very creepy.
They're pretty. It's actually pretty good, like practical like costume / makeup design or whatever, special effects. So yeah, they were pretty cool looking demons. And she's fighting them. She gets to stake one. She manages to stake one, and like they have like this like
weird
fluorescent kind of blood,
like on her hand or
her
arm?
She gets it on her hand.
Yeah, okay.
And it like seeps in. We kind of see it leave like a little bit of a mark, kind of, and then the other one runs away, and she's about to go after the other demon, and then we just see that like that the blood is like coming out of the demon that she staked. And it's like a fluorescent kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we go to the credits. When we come back, Buffy is giving the debrief to Giles about the patrol and about the demons, and saying like, one got away and the other one like I mistaked it, and he's kind of just she's letting him know what they like. She doesn't know who they are, but like they were big. They didn't have a mouth. Describing them. And then, so the whole gang's there, really, and they're trying to find out. Now she's catching up with Giles about what did he find out about the Ascension.
Yeah, but they don't really say a lot.
They don't know a lot. That's why.
Yeah. Okay.
He's like, fair. I've narrowed down a few things that it's not. Like the ritual flaying of some demon. It's not that. It's not this. But I don't know what it is. So like they're very still in the dark about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And during this, we see Buffy is like scratching her hand. Yep. As she's talking and stuff.
And it's this is good foreshadowing. I'm like, ooh, what's going to happen?
Yeah, like she's got a scratch.
And then Wesley walks in.
I thought Wesley actually was like really funny in this scene because he walks up and he's like, oh, what are you like doing? And he's like, I was just telling the gang or whatever, telling Buffy what I learned about the Ascension. And Wesley says, oh, really? What took up the rest of the minute? Because he knows that there's nothing to talk about. And Giles was like, okay, tough guy. So do you have like the council and everything behind you? Why don't you tell us what's going to happen with the Ascension? And he does not know either. So everyone just leaves, and they're just kind of fed up because they're like, okay, you don't know anything either, Wesley, so we're just at square one still. Willow and Buffy talk in the hallway about not seeing Angel. She's like, oh, have you seen Angel? She's like, not really, because if you remember, she asked for like some time apart.
Yeah, space.
A break in the last episode. And yeah, she's just saying she's still having a hard time, like even him faking being bad. And then also with Faith was like very triggering for her, and she just needs some time. And also she still thinks that like Angel enjoyed kissing Faith, which I don't know why she would think that, but
I mean, she's insecure, I guess.
Yeah, she is insecure about it. Yeah, so she just was like, I don't know. I think maybe, he enjoyed it. It looked like he enjoyed it and all this. So she's very insecure about that. And Willow says she needs to talk to him.
Yeah.
So Hogan and Perry, who are basketball players, we know that Perry is being tutored by Willow, come down the hallway. And it's funny because Xander's like, that Hogan Martin, he just thinks he's cool and all of this because he can play on the basketball team. And he's like, hey, Xander. He's like, oh, he knows my name.
Oh, yeah. That was funny. Yeah.
So Xander's actually like very happy that Hogan knows his name. So they come up to Hogan and Percy come up to Willow, and Percy and her are talking about still tutoring, and he's doing a good job.
Doing his homework.
And he seems like he's like turned around his attitude too, since Vampire Willow kicked his ass, which is good. He seems to be like nicer now to Willow. So definitely Willow seems to be running the show now instead of Percy.
She has more confidence.
Yeah. And also, so he asked her if she's going to come to the game. She's like, oh yeah, absolutely. So everyone's excited about going to the basketball game. And Willow's very excited about it and is saying, like, yeah, too bad you can't go. Everyone's going to be there because Buffy has a patrol. And Buffy's like, yeah, everyone who isn't Buffy will be there. So she's kind of sad. She's being left out. Her sacred duty is making her be left out from the basketball game. Okay. And she's still scratching her hand. And then she notices at this point, like, oh, yeah, I am, like, really scratching at my
Yep.
hand. Yeah, that's weird. So they're in Giles' office, and they have, like, a big, like, magnifying glass over her hand. They're, like, looking at it. And Giles finds the demons in one of his books, and she's like, yep, that's them. And apparently it says the demon's blood can infect the host.
Yeah.
And give them an aspect of the demon. And, of course, Buffy's like, what? Like, oh my god, she's freaking out because these were not the most attractive looking demons. So she does not want to get a tail or horns or grossness on the outside. But he's like, you know what? It's fine. We don't know what that means. Like, just try to relax and don't try to go after the other one, the one that got away. But, you know, that's not really giving her any peace of mind.
No.
So we go to the pep rally that's in the quad, and they're all watching the pep rally, and who is it? Who's holding it? I think Willow's holding the school paper. So one of the, like, writes the editorials for the school paper is Freddie Iverson, and he's very depressing and, like, negative and everything. So he talks about, like the cheerleaders are, like, kind of like prostitutes and all this stuff, and not just really down on the pep rally, like the whole, like, school spirit thing and stuff. So, yeah, so Willow was kind of reading about that. Buffy is worried about
turning into the demon. And Willow's like, yeah, you know what, I'm sure it's fine. Like, you know, Giles has a lot on his plate with the Ascension, so he's probably not even right about this. And Buffy's, like, checking her hair for horns. She's like, oh god, what if I get, like, a tail? And then Willow's like, it's no big deal, like, it's fine. And she's like gets startled, and Buffy's like, what? Do you see something on me? She's like, what if was it a boy demon? Oh, yeah.
Like, are you gonna grow a demon penis? That would suck. Willow's, like, trying to console her, but then was like, oh, this occurs to her that, oh god, she could get demon boy parts. Xander's talking to Oz about, because obviously Cordelia is a cheerleader, we see her up there, and he's like, I don't get why I spent so much time on her. Like, she's not hot. Like, look at all the other ones. They're just as hot as she is.
Right, Xander.
Yeah. And then he sees Wesley walking up the stairs, and Wesley looks at Cordelia, and is, like, obviously, like, checking her out. And then Xander's like, look at him checking out my Cordy. Like, okay, yeah. Dude. All right. Yeah. Why did you waste any time on her?
Who's he trying to convince?
So while everyone's at the game, we're presuming, Buffy is on the street kind of half-heartedly patrolling. And she, like, takes out a pocket mirror and looks, and she's like, okay, like, no horns or anything. And she, like, closes it, and Angel's behind her and startles her, because obviously she wouldn't see him in the mirror.
Right.
And obviously she's like, oh, are you tracking me? Are you tracking Faith? Like, is that why you're here? And all this stuff. Like, she's very much hung up on the Faith thing still.
He just wants her to be safe and okay. He thinks it's dangerous with Faith out there.
Yeah.
He's just checking up on her.
So, yeah, she's very insecure about the whole thing and is still weirded out. And then he's like, but something else is bothering you. And she, like, tells him about the demon. And he's like, you know what? A lot of these demons, like, overestimate their power. They exaggerate their power. So, you know, you'll be okay. I'm not gonna let anything happen to you. I love you, even if you were covered in slime. And she's like, you know what? I liked everything up to that part. And he says, like, no matter what, I'll always be with you. Yeah, so they're kind of, like, on good footing at the moment.
Yeah.
In the student lounge, everybody had fun at the game. Willow was, like, recounting, like, how they won with a three-pointer at the buzzer. And when Buffy comes over, they're like, oh, shh. Like, we don't want to, like, make her feel bad that she wasn't at the game and missed out. So when she comes over, she's like, okay, nobody's talking. Like, either we lost or you guys just don't want to make me feel bad, which is exactly what it was. And Willow kind of lies, is like, oh, it wasn't good. Like, it wasn't whatever. And, of course, Cordelia's like, hey, what are you talking about? She walks by and is like, this was amazing. So, yeah, she totally blows it for them, trying to cover up how the game was and how much fun they had. And
we get a little sneak peek at Buffy's superpower.
Yeah, so Cordelia walks just kind of behind them to another group of people, and Xander's kind of, like, paying attention to her. And we hear Xander's voice say, oh, I wonder if her and Wesley have kissed yet. And Buffy says, oh, it really bothers you about Wesley and Cordelia maybe kissing. He's like, oh, you read my mind. And then she's like, oh, God, I think I did read his mind. Like, he didn't say that, but she heard it. So she's in the hallway, and she runs into a teacher, Mr. Beach, and, like, literally runs into him. And he's like, oh, watch where you're going. And she's like, okay, I will. And then as he's walking away, he's like, oh, if we could only get rid of all these students. Like, the worst thing about school is, like, the students.
It's so
yeah, and she's like, oh, my gosh. So she's walking down the hall, and she starts hearing people
commenting on all kinds of things.
Well, she hears gross boy thoughts.
And then, there's a gross boy thoughts where he, like, one of them's just, like, she finds it flattering at first, but then it, like, gets too much.
It's too much, yeah.
Too much about her. And, then she eventually just runs away and goes to the library to tell Giles.
He's not convinced.
No, he's not convinced.
And then she proves the point.
By reading his mind. And he's like, wow, okay, so the demons are telepathic, and that's why they didn't need mouths. So that was the aspect, obviously, that she got from them. And Giles is saying this would be, like, really useful for... She's like, wow, this is great. This is amazing. And he's like, yeah, like, imagine, like using it for slaying. Like, you could anticipate your, like, opponent's next move, and, like, this could be really helpful. She's like, no, I know something to use it way better than that, than for slaying. So we go to English class, and they are discussing Othello. So this is one of the scenes that Joss wrote. And Buffy is answering, like, all the questions correctly in class, stealing thoughts from Nancy, a student. Obviously, that does really well.
Buffy.
And even the teacher. She's stealing the thoughts from the teacher on what the answers are.
Yeah.
And then she sees across by Willow someone sitting, and she says, "Who's that guy?" And she says, "He's Freddie Iverson." And he's the guy that wrote the editorial in the paper. That he doesn't really like people. And I forget what she overheard him say, but it caught her attention.
Right. And
what kind of we're talking about Othello, it ties into, like, the juxtaposition to the show is that about Buffy not trusting Angel. That's kind of what it gets her thinking about. So that leads her to skip school and go to the mansion. And Buffy tries to read his mind to get the truth out of, like, the whole Faith situation.
But she can't.
Yeah, he says, "You can't read my mind." He, like, knows what's happening.
It's like a shield.
Yeah, she's like, it's like the mirror. The thoughts are there, but they show no reflection. Like, so they're there, but they don't reflect in you.
He says, "Why don't you just ask me what I'm thinking?"
So she does.
Whole idea.
Yeah, for real. And he said it really hurt him to hurt her. Buffy's like, I would, and it didn't enjoy doing that. And she's like, I would understand if you did, because, she's got the whole bad girl thing going for her. And Angel kind of puts his foot in the mouth a little bit here. He's like, he's done the bad girl thing. He's been with dozens of girls like her.
Oh
More than dozens.
Yeah, keep going, Angel.
She's like, okay.
Well, Buffy's like, honesty isn't fun.
Yeah, this isn't as fun as I thought it would be.
No.
But yeah, he says that in his 257 years, as in his life, he's only loved her.
Only loved one person.
One person. It's her.
Sweet.
And then she's like, "Oh, okay. I guess I'm okay. I feel better now." And he says, "Be careful with this gift."
Yep.
Because, like immortality, it can be double-edged sword, which is obvious, a gift that he has. Gift, air quotes. So in the library, Giles is telling the group that Buffy is there also, that she can read minds.
Yep.
So now we get to see in the minds of Willow, Xander, Oz, and Wesley. Cordelia. I don't know why Cordelia is
especially,
there.
because Wesley's just like, it just takes mental discipline, basically.
Yeah.
And then he immediately thinks of Cordelia.
Yeah, he's like, "Don't look at Cordelia. I'm a bad man. Don't look at Cordelia." And Buffy's like looking at him like, "I know you're thinking." So he runs off. And first person to run off, though, is Xander, who just keeps thinking about sex. And eventually Buffy's like, "Is that all you're thinking about?" And he just runs out of the room.
Yes. And then Oz goes all Descartes.
Yeah, he's very
philosophical.
He's just Oz. Like, yeah, his thoughts are much more complicated than his speech. Yeah, still waters run deep. That is like I think the like tagline for Oz. So yeah, he's just like doing these like existential thoughts and stuff about like, if Buffy knows his mind, then she is him, and am I her, and like, do we neither of us exist, and all this stuff. And Willow gets insecure, being like, I thought it was sad when she was like, "Oh, she's barely even human anymore."
Yeah,
like, that was a pretty
low blow. Yeah,
like harsh. But then she meant it in a way like, "Oh, I don't. She doesn't need me. Like, she's like a superhero.
That's how
like,
she
she doesn't
exactly.
need me." Yeah, but yeah. And Buffy tries to make her feel like, "Yes, no, I do need you." And she's like, I didn't mean to hear that, And yeah, that's why Giles says, like, or I think Wesley says, you're going to be thinking everything you don't want her to hear. It's like, don't think of a pink elephant. it's that kind of situation.
Yeah.
So, but then, Willow runs out of the room. Oz follows her. Wesley's in the other room trying to hide his thoughts. And Buffy's like, okay, you know what? I am just going to leave because you guys can all think in peace. So in the hallway, she's walking through and it's a lot.
So
it's a lot.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like, before it was like kind of like funny things, and now it's like people that are like commenting on their own bodies, and
Now it's just everything.
But a lot of stress, people getting a lot of people's stress and like negative things, and she's getting overwhelmed by it. In the library, they quickly, Wesley and Giles are quick trying to do research to figure out what's going on. And unfortunately, they find out that, because he's like, okay, someone else must have gotten this aspect of the demon before, because these aren't the first two of this demon. And they're like, oh, there is somebody, and they had to be put in total isolation.
Yeah.
Because they went insane.
They couldn't shut it off. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
Like, how do you decipher between, like, the different thoughts? It's just, like, all, like,
it's
this loud
cacophony.
noise that you can never turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they couldn't stop it. So that's not good news for Buffy. In the cafeteria, she's going through the line, and Jonathan's there, the lunch lady, all these different people are there, and voices are coming in here and there, and then she gets to the middle of the room, and it, like, again comes into, like, a cacophony, and then it, like, stops, and she hears one voice saying, this time tomorrow, I'll kill you all.
Which is,
Not great.
No.
Not great.
She drops her tray.
She drops her tray.
She gets confused. She's, like, discombobulated, and she kind of, like, she faints.
Yeah. And she's also, like, trying to, like, grab at people, like, trying to figure out who said it. And then she does pass out. Yeah. At the outside, they drag her outside, I guess. So the gang's around her. She wakes up and she immediately tells them about what she heard about the threat. And she couldn't make out if it was a woman or a man or anything like that.
Yeah, there's just not distinct.
Yeah. And that she needs to go back in. She needs to go back in and, like, figure out who it was. And then, but she starts getting swamped by, like, voices, like a swarm of voices again. So Giles is going to take her home, but she insists that the group goes back into the cafeteria and make a list of everyone who's there. And then she also says, like, Nancy, because Nancy's always like, oh, I don't like her. Like, and Mr. Beach, because he had talked about getting rid of all the students. So we have a list of suspects.
Well, then as, like, Giles is going to take her home, he's like, oh, it's okay. Like, you'll be fine. But then she can overhear his thoughts saying if it doesn't stop, she's going to go insane.
I know. And that's sad. Poor thing. And poor Giles trying to, like, reassure her. But yeah, he knows something that she doesn't know.
Yep.
So in the library, Buffy's been taken home, but everyone else is in the library, and Willow has a list of students that she's handing out, and she has like a survey that everyone's going to have to talk to the students about, and she kind of did it against the FBI, like, serial killer stats. So, like, traits that a serial killer has. Like, we're going to try to, like, weed out these people by doing, like, this, like, study on them. And they talked about, like, this is where they first, like, bring up, like, the school shooting. We're like, yeah, of course this would happen in America. Like, this is not, like, a weird thing. And Oz says, yeah, it's bordering on trendy at this point. And this was in 1999. So this is, like, I mean, Columbine, in our recent memory, especially in my lifetime, like, Columbine was the first, like, big, like, notable school shooting. Yep. So this was, like, right at the beginning of this epidemic that we're still living through. So that was a notable thing to say. I mean, it blows my mind that it's so much worse now. You know what I mean? Like, and that was right when Columbine happened. This was filmed before Columbine happened. So for them to, like, make those comments, this is kind of like, wow, like, in hindsight, like, this is crazy. In Buffy's room, Joyce tucks her into bed and makes sure she's comfortable. She's like, oh, I'm going to get you another pillow. She's like, no, Mom, I'm okay. Oh, I'm going to get you another blanket. Leaves the room again. And she's like, Mom, why don't you just sit here with me?
Can you just lay with me?
Just sit here with me. She's like, oh, I have laundry to do. She's like, what are you? And then she, like, bolts up in bed and says, you had sex with Giles.
Oh my God.
Which we suspected. She's like, it was the candy. So we finally get confirmation of what happened between her and Giles.
We suspected.
In band candy, yes.
And Buffy, though. Buffy didn't need to know that.
No. And she's like, oh, and Joyce, like, runs out of the room. And she's like, on the hood of a police car? Twice? So she gets way more details than she wants. Because now Joyce is like is thinking about it. Like she like doesn't have a choice. So we get confirmation. I think I read something about Jane Epstein was like people wanted to know what happened in Van Candy between them, so they put that in there that now there's no more mystery about what happened.
Or Buffy. She can't unhear that now.
Yeah, like this is the real problem of this whole episode for Buffy. In the library, Willow gives out a list of students to each of them. To Willow, Willow's taking her own. Yeah, Willow, Cordelia, Xander, and Oz to go out and ask. Mm-hmm. So we kind of get a montage of them like finding students and asking them questions.
Questioning, yep.
Willow is interrogating Jonathan, and then Oz is asking Hogan some questions, who is the basketball player, and Cordelia walks into Mr. Beach's classroom and says, and they're also passing all these questions off as for the yearbook. She walks into Mr. Beach's classroom and says, hey, I just wondered if you were planning on killing a bunch of people tomorrow. It's for the yearbook.
She's to the point.
She doesn't want to mince words. She's like, I don't got time for this. Like, I'm just going to ask you if you're going to kill people.
Figure it out. Because of course he would just be like, yes, that's what I was planning on doing.
Yeah, he'd be like, you caught me. But she doesn't want to bother with it. And then Xander's using this opportunity to, like, ask all these girls, like, what their turn-offs and turn-ons are. Which is not the point of the exercise, Xander.
No.
He's like, okay, turned it off smoking. Okay. So he's just gathering intel. And then on Oz's list is Freddie Iverson, who is, like, it's hard to, like, come up with an appropriate term for him. I don't want to say he's creepy. He's, like, dark...
Yeah,
tortured soul brooding guy in the school or whatever. Yeah.
And Oz can't track him down.
Yeah, he can't find him.
He's hiding under his desk when Oz goes to get him.
He is deliberately hiding from
Why?
Oz. Yeah.
Why?
No. At Buffy's house, she's like looking out the window and she's hearing like a ton of voices in the neighborhood now. But she like just gets into bed and tries to put a pillow over her head. Like she's trying to drown out the noises. It's escalating, obviously. Like how intense her mind reading is. So at the library, Wesley and Giles are working on a potion to stop can't really come up with something. They found something to stop the mind reading, but they need the heart of the second demon to add to this so she can drink it. And yeah, it's weird because Giles says, "Who are we gonna get to find the demon?" And did he mean that like literally? Because of course it would be Angel. Like,
yeah, because who else would there be?
Yeah, and so we immediately go to the playground where Angel is fighting the demon.
Yep.
So at the playground, yeah, as well, always. So at Buffy's house, like she is like struggling with all the noises.
Turn those thoughts off.
We hear a little bit, we get like a little bit of tea about Ravello Drive's residents. So there's someone that's like a woman that's like a struggling alcoholic. There is a woman who her husband is cheating on her and she knows and he doesn't, it's not out yet. There is a man that lost his job after being at the company for 20 years. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the neighborhood that she's doesn't want to hear. So at school, Willow is asking Nancy about, the questions, feeling her out. And I like the scene between Xander and Larry. So Larry makes a reappearance, if we remember Larry. He was the gay football player that was like a real bully.
Yes.
And really like disrespectful to women in the school and all of this. And we found out during I think it was during Go Fish that he was gay and he was like really not having a easy time of dealing and processing the fact that he was gay. He was trying to hide it by overcompensating and masculinity and all of this. So I like this because Xander's trying to talk to him like in a low voice. He's like, "Why are you talking low? Like talk up, like speak up." He's like, "Because I'm gay." He's like, "I'm out, man. I'm out." He's like, "I'm so out. My grandma's setting me up on dates." So I was like, and he seems like much happier and like, like that was all really from that trauma that he was going through, like accepting himself. Yeah. So I just thought he like seemed like the nice person now. I was happy about like he's just out and proud and like all that's off of him now. And he kind of like, because remember he thinks Xander is also gay.
Yes.
So he's like, "Hey man, like, are you having trouble with it? Like, why don't you have that Freddie Iverson guy put a tasteful announcement in the school paper for you? Just do it. Just come out. It's amazing." And Xander's like, "Okay, yeah, thanks for everything. Thank you." But like,
awkward.
Like, "Man, I'm so out. My grandma's setting me up on dates." I thought that was so cute.
That was really cute.
I liked that. So Freddy ditches Oz again because Oz comes back to look for him again. Mm-hmm. And he kind of sees some headlines and stuff, and they're all very, like, negative and, like, doomsday kind of, maybe not that extreme, but could be worrisome mental state if you read into some of these headlines that he's writing for the paper. At Buffy's house, Giles and Buffy's kind of like she's conscious, but she's
like not responsive.
Yeah, she's not responsive. And she's just like, she's just
can't
like
focus.
Yeah, on anything.
She's out of it.
And Joyce is like worried that she's hurting. This is kind of sweet. That I'm worried I'm hurting her with my thoughts because you can't stop thinking, really, to a degree, especially when you're worried and everything. Yeah. And Giles says now she doesn't know your voice from any of the others. She can't
pick one thought out of the din.
Yeah, so they're obviously worried about her. They're just watching her from her bedroom window or her bedroom doorway. And then they hear like a knock on the door. Angel comes in during the day with a blanket over his head, so he's nice and steamy. He's broiling. And he has, like, the drink, and obviously we see, like, the same kind of, like, fluorescent blood, and there's, like, chunks in it, which is probably nice. the heart. He takes it up, gives it to Buffy, even though she's, like, kind of, like, he has to kind of, like, force it down. And then she starts having, like, a seizure, or starts convulsing.
Thrashes around,
yeah. And I don't know why, he, like, holds her down. Like, you're not supposed to hold down a person that's having a seizure, but, like... but anyway, he doesn't. Why would he know? And he yells for Giles. So we're like, oh God, is Buffy like reacting to this badly, or what? So we basically are like just having a little look over at like the quad. People are going around doing their business and everything, and we like we retract the camera up into the watchtower, the clock tower, and Jonathan is up there with a gun.
Yeah, not what I was expecting.
Yeah, a huge gun with a big scope on it.
They really pointed us towards Freddy, so I really was going in that direction.
You were? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they totally distracted me. Good job.
So in Buffy's room, Buffy wakes up. She wakes up.
Cute.
Everyone's there waiting. I feel like it's the end of Wizard of Oz when everyone's around her bed. And Joyce asks, like, are you, and by everyone, it's Giles, Joyce, and Angel. And she asks, like, are you okay? Like, do you hear any voices? And she's like, no, I don't. Like, yay. Like, she's cured. Immediately she asked, did we find out who the killer was?
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah, no. So at school, the only person left that they haven't really talked to is Freddy. So everyone converges on Freddy and they catch him. And
they finally find him.
Yeah, and he tries to, like, run away, which is not a good sign. And they're like, what are you going to do? Like, I can't remember what he said. What are you going to do? Like, sit on me or restrain me? And they're like, yeah, of course we are. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, something about the review. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he gives them the paper. He's like, I reviewed Dingoes Ate My Baby, like, last Thursday, and I thought you were coming to, like, pummel me for the review. And Oz reads it, and it says that Dingoes Ate My Baby, play their instruments like they had sausages strapped to their fingers.
Yeah. And Oz is like, it's fair.
Fair. Oz is not upset. Oz is not like, Oz barely ever gets upset. Very rarely.
He's like the coolest cucumber of them all.
He is so much. That's why it's so funny that he's a werewolf.
I need to channel, yeah, you're right. I need to channel some inner Oz.
I know, for real. I should be like, inner Oz. We need to start a mantra of that. Yeah, he's like, oh, it's fair, man. Like, it's okay. Yeah, he's like, oh, I just get a lot of hate mail. I thought you guys were just tracking me down to, like, basically deliver some, like, hate mail in person, like, beat me up because of what I said about the band. And obviously, he gets a lot of hate mail. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, okay. And then Cordelia picks up one of the letters from his hate mail pile and starts reading it. And it says something along the lines of, like, oh, like, when you guys, like, by tomorrow you'll know what I did and, like, why I had to do it and all this. And then it's signed by Jonathan. Yep. And they're like, oh, shit, it's Jonathan. Like, that's his, like, letter that he's going to leave after he does this. So they all split up looking for Jonathan. And Buffy shows up, first of all, before they split up. Buffy shows up and is like, okay, we're good. Like, I'm cured. Let's go find Jonathan. So they're all looking for Jonathan while we cut back and forth to Jonathan, like, putting the gun together. Because it's a big gun. It's like a big rifle. So he's, like, putting it together. He's sweating. He's up there in the clock tower. And everyone's doing their job except for when Xander gets to the cafeteria, he sees that there's Jello. Gets distracted by Jello.
Jesus. Come on, Xander.
That's like I should feel like the tagline now. Like for Xander should be like distracted by Jello. Like that's Xander in a nutshell. So Buffy's walking around out in the quad. She looks up and sees Jonathan in the clock tower and is like, oh shit, okay, he's gonna do it from up there.
And this is quite the scene because she doesn't think, she just acts. She just starts jumping on things, doing things
in front of everyone.
Teenagers can't do.
Actually, like Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah, she Spider-Man's on up there, and I'm just like, okay, but she just wants to.
Yeah, it's like she doesn't have the luxury of like being stealthy.
So she's let's do it.
And I liked when Nancy's sitting there, that student that doesn't like her, and she like sees her. I could have done that. That was funny.
Okay, Nancy.
Yeah, right, Nancy.
Let's see you do it.
I'll give you this, Nancy. You take really good care of your curls because they looked great, but I don't think you could do that like stunt that she just did. And another little Easter egg is every time like Buffy starts looking up at every time we like see in the scene, we cut back and forth to the clock. The time changes to like it's 12:40 and then it's 12:10. So really? Time goes backward.
Oh, that's funny.
So a little goof there.
I totally didn't catch that. Nice.
So yeah, like you said, she jumps up there, and he's kind of pointing the gun at her. She like bursts through like the little like wood slats, and he's like, "Get away from me!" and points the gun at her.
Yeah. And
she starts talking to him. She tries to talk him down.
Yeah.
And he's not having it.
No, he's like, we're not friends.
Yeah, don't talk to me. She's like talking to him like a hostage negotiator. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's be like like trying to talk him down that way. And he's not having it. And he's like, yeah, don't talk to me like we're friends. And she's like, actually, like, she goes, you guys think I'm just like an idiot, a short idiot. And she's like, I don't really think of you much at all. And nobody else does down there either because they all have like a lot of shit going on in their lives.
It's because they're all thinking about like themselves basically. Like it's not because when she first says that, like no one really thinks about you. I was just like, damn, Buffy.
Yeah, we're not trying to push this guy off the edge. Like
yeah, but then she's like, it's just because everyone's like has their own stuff going on. And I was like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, it's an interesting
pain,
speech.
Loneliness, confusion. It looks quiet, but it's not. It's deafening.
Yeah, that was a great line. Yeah, just saying like all these people. She's like. Because he says, like, oh, yeah, like, you're beautiful and all of this, and, like, what a hard burden to bear. And she's like, my life is horrible sometimes, and more than I can take.
You can't
and it's the same. Yeah. Same with everyone else down there. Mm-hmm. They're all dealing with their own stuff.
Exactly.
And they kind of just look over everyone. And she's like, I could have taken that gun by now. And he's like, I know. And she's like, I'd rather do it this way. And just puts her hand out, and he gives her the gun. So, and she's like, dealing with this stuff, like mass murder isn't a way to deal with these kind of feelings. And,
it's like, I wasn't gonna
he's like, well, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, prison's a lot like school, but like, well, and he's like, I would never hurt anyone. Like I came up here to kill myself.
Yeah. Which is sad.
Yeah, it's just a sad realization. Like there's another trigger warning, like attempted suicide in this episode. Yeah, it was so sad. Like poor Jonathan, and he was like sweating profusely this whole time. And this is not the gun. I guess I don't know. Maybe this is the gun he could get his hands on. But like, how would you like the sheer mechanics of trying to shoot yourself with this kind of gun would be
that's a good point.
Challenging, but obviously they wanted it to look like he was going to kill others. That's why there was a scope on it and everything. But like a little bit strange that he would pick this gun to try to kill himself.
Yeah.
But, they're like, oh, okay, it's not Jonathan. That was the threat to the students. And so we go to the cafeteria, and Xander is sneaking back to get to a big tray of yummy Jello. He's about to eat it when he sees the lunch lady putting a box of rat poison into food and catches her.
Wow.
Yeah. So he runs out to the cafeteria, slipping over tables.
Stop eating.
Yeah, he's like, rat poison, don't eat. He's whacking trays out of people's hands.
Cafeteria lady runs right after him with a meat cleaver?
Yes. She's like, I've been caught now, so I guess if I go out there and like kill the student in front of everyone, I'll get away with it. I don't know. So he falls, she's about to go after him, and then Buffy shows up and stops the lady. And she's like, oh, like you're all vermin, you come in here and you eat. Like, she's real creepy. He wants to kill them because they come to the cafeteria to eat.
To eat.
She's obviously not all there. Yeah, she calls them vermin, and it's filth. They just come in here and eat and eat. And yeah, she's a weirdo. Buffy kind of like just knocks her away because, you know, she doesn't have any superpowers, obviously.
Yeah.
And actually, funny enough, I forgot to mention this. When Buffy's outside after she faints, Xander says, "Oh, I bet it's the cafeteria lady."
Oh.
And he was right.
I missed that.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I bet it's the lunch lady trying to kill us with her mulligan stew." Yeah, and he was right. He called it on accident.
I totally missed that. Okay, nice.
Yeah. So in the quad, Willow and Buffy are walking. They're saying that she basically like talked to Angel and like everything's fine with them now. Giles comes over and Willow takes off, and Willow so many people. Buffy and Giles are talking, and he kind of like asks about how Jonathan is. So Jonathan got suspended from school. Mm-hmm. Obviously he's in a lot of trouble. But she thinks he's stealing. Yeah, they don't really talk about helping.
I know.
him.
That's what I was like. You suspend them, but he actually needs therapy. People.
Yeah, like yes. So they don't really talk about that. They talk about like basically how he got in trouble for bringing a gun to school.
Yeah. That's anyway.
Yeah, and okay. So while they're having this conversation, if you look in the background, there is a sign on the school, and that they didn't cover it up. It says Torrance, like it's Torrance something or other.
Nice.
School thing.
That's funny. I missed that.
It's not very clear, but it's there. Yeah, and he's not doing well, but he'll probably be okay. And he's starting to get that look in his eye, like he's gonna ask me to prom. And Giles is like, "Well, why don't you?" She's like, "Yeah, okay, I'm not Saint Buffy. Like I'm not taking him to prom."
What am I, Saint Buffy? He's got to be like 3 feet tall. Wow.
She's like, "I'm happy to do my part and like help people, but not taking them to prom." Yeah, so definitely didn't address like the issues that obviously Jonathan was dealing with. Yeah, and then they just go on to be like, "Yeah, okay, do you want to like train? Yeah, after school?" And Buffy says, "Yeah, if you're not too busy having sex with my mother."
As Giles walks into a tree.
Which is a great way to end the episode. So now really Giles knows that Buffy knows all the details.
That was really funny.
That was a great ending to a pretty heavy episode. Okay, so my favorite line was, "Is this a thing? The aspect thing?" Because I gotta say, it is way better than a tail. I mean, I have a hard enough time as it is finding jeans that fit right. That's such a Buffy line. I just loved that. And then my favorite scene was the confrontation up in the clock tower with Buffy and Jonathan. Yeah.
My favorite line was pretty cheesy. Angel, "Hey, I'll love you even if you're covered with slime." That was cute.
Angel had a lot of like romantic lines in this, so I thought
it did. I liked it. I'm here for it. And then my favorite scene was I'll just pick the same scene as you. Yep. Confrontation.
I mean, it was definitely like the best acted scene.
It was, yeah. It was really
very
good. Scene.
Yeah, it was very effective. Okay. So my steak rating was a 4.5.
Okay.
And I did that because I liked the Buffy getting her like the hearing, the mind reading powers.
Yep.
I thought it was like unique. I liked it. It had its all kinds of like ups and downs. It was entertaining. I liked that. Now, how they like handled like the school shooting threat and like the suicide thing. There's like pros and cons about it. I feel like how they handled it. Better. I like that, especially if you take it in context of like when this episode was shot. So pre-Columbine.
Yeah. Okay.
Pre-Columbine, this was an issue that they put into the show, which I think is really good. Buffy is like very good at that. Like, yeah, I just think that this was something they wanted to bring, an issue they wanted to bring into the show was way before its time, unfortunately. Yeah. You know what I mean? I hope like this was never an issue, but so I think that it was good that like even at that point that they brought this issue out into the show. And I think that part was handled better than what it actually was, like this, like the suicide attempt, Jonathan's suicide attempt.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because like actually the whole time she's talking to Jonathan, it's about him not killing other people. It gets him off the ledge, metaphorically, but that wasn't what she thought she was talking to him about. about killing himself. So yeah, the suicide was the suicide attempt was a good twist. Like, it does surprise you. You're like, oh my god, he wasn't gonna do it. Yeah, but it's the way that they handled, like, when we find out that Jonathan was gonna kill himself and not do a mass murder of the students, I just feel like that wasn't. I feel like they didn't have a lot of time. Obviously, it was at the very end of the episode, but I think when they had that walk and talk with Giles and Buffy, that could have been. There could have been like 2 more lines about Jonathan's mental health or something there. So I think like that kind of like dropped a bit. Like, kind of like they didn't handle that the way I would have liked it. But the fact that they brought kind of these issues to a TV show that teenagers watch and young people watch in 1999, like, in hindsight, it was like very good thing to like bring up. Topic of conversation to bring up.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in 1999. So, they tried. You know what I mean? And I think, I don't know if I'm making myself clear or not, but I definitely think it was good, and I appreciate the effort of bringing these issues to the forefront on the show, but maybe they didn't have enough, knowing everything we know now about the world and everything to say the right things in the episode.
Yeah.
So, I tried to be understanding about where this episode's coming from, because it was in 1999 that it was made. So yeah, that was kind of like my like wishy-washy how I felt about the issues that they took on.
Yeah, that's fair.
But the twist was very effective, I would say.
Yeah, it was.
So because of that, I gave it a 4.5.
Okay. I gave it a 4, basically what you said, though. Yeah, same thing. The only thing I'll add is I liked how they finally confirmed Joyce and Giles.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, yeah.
Now we don't have to wonder about it for seasons to come. We know. We know now. All right. So, your question for next week in the episode.
Season 3, episode 19, choices.
Choices. Yeah. So we're 4 left. We are going for it now.
Let's do it. Okay.
Buffy gets accepted to what elite school?
Oh. Okay. You have those elite schools in America. So we have Yale, Harvard. Oh, she's in California, though.
She is in California.
So Stanford, or what's that one in
UCLA?
UCLA or Berkeley?
Yeah. These are all elite schools, I would say.
Okay. Yale, Harvard. Okay, I'm guessing somewhere in California. So UCLA or Berkeley or Stanford. Oh, geez, that's a lot of choices. Let's go with UCLA.
Okay. UCLA it is. All right. We will see what happens. All right. Yeah, so things are starting to get wrapped up. Like, we find out, they're finding out where they're getting accepted to school and everything.
Is she going to college?
I don't know. We'll find out in season 4.
Wow. Okay.
I think I'm just going to give you that information just like that?
I think so.
No.
Wow.
All right.
You can work for it.
Yes. You have to watch for it. So that wraps up season 3, episode 18, Earshot. Again, you can find us on all major podcast apps and YouTube and Instagram at One Girl Another World Pod. You can also email us at onegirlpod@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week with season 3, episode 19, Choices. See you real soon. Bye.
Bye.